Let's retry that. Welcome to the Darkstream. I'm VoxDay, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. The unauthorized chat is live, DLive chat is live, and we are rolling. I still don't know if audio and video are good. There we go. Thank you. I always, it's not anybody's fault, but I have to admit I always find it mildly annoying when the very first comments are, "Hey, how you doing?" and all this stuff. It's like, can we make sure that this is working properly first? That's kind of our priority. Speaking of working properly, just a reminder, this is shipping out to Castalia Library subscribers everywhere. The Promethean is as well, although I haven't received it yet. This is the very, very funny the Law Dog Files and the Law Dog Files African Adventures. And it's definitely one that will that merits preserving for several hundred years. We listened to it once, the audiobook on a long road trip, and it was extremely popular to the point that it pretty much gets requested on any reasonable, on a road trip of any reasonable length. So, e-celebrity is real. I'm sure some of you are wondering what on earth I could possibly mean by that. After all, the whole point of discussing e-celebrity and referring to people as e-celebs and that sort of thing is to distinguish them from what we consider to be real celebrities, right? But you know what Big Bear and I realized recently in a conversation that we were having, we were just talking about some of the stuff relating to his new special coming out, how we grow unauthorized, to the 10,000 subscriber point, to the 25,000 subscriber point, because those are the points that we have to get to if we want to be able to expand the nature of what we're doing. We can keep adding more streamers and doing streaming and all that sort of thing indefinitely, which is good. But if we want to take it to a new level and be producing good documentaries, high quality animated shorts, that kind of stuff, we need to either crowdfund specific projects, or we need to grow the subscriber base. And so, of course, we're doing well, just slowly growing like we've been doing, when all the big streaming services are collapsing. It's really incredible to see how many people are dropping their Netflix, dropping their whatever, and we all know why, But one of the things that we realized is that both of us had made a series of, you can't really call them mistakes per se, but I would say suboptimal decisions to get involved in activities and time commitments that were neither primary nor even secondary. And the reason that you get pulled into these things is the exact same reason that you see celebrities endorsing cereals and bean paste in Japan and all sorts of nonsense. Because what the celebrity brings to the table is simply attention. And whether we like it or not, in our current society and for some time, attention is a form of currency. It's got genuine value to it. Um, when we did the initial, people forget how successful the original Alt Hero launch was, the Alt Hero crowdfund. It kind of gets, lost in all the fact that Freestart is not around anymore, the fact that the whole Indiegogo thing happened, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But what really, uh, it was a big deal at the time. It was prior to Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog crowdfund. It was the biggest one out of what 12,000 previous crowdfunds. It was the biggest one for a new comic, and it was one of the top 20 for any comic. Why was that? It was essentially uh, based on my very modest amount of e-celebrity. Why did Ethan Van Sciver do even better? Because he was a popular YouTube e-celebrity, right? Eric July, same thing. And so the problem is that once you reach a point where there is enough attention to become currency, whether you're an e-celebrity, whether you're a Z-list UK celebrity, lots of people want a piece of you for one reason or another. Often it's good. Often it's an opportunity. Often it's something that you'd like to take advantage of. Sometimes it's excessively enthusiastic fans who want to be your best friend. I got an email last week, I think it was, and this is one of those. I'm your biggest fans, and we're so similar. We should be best friends, type thing. Which is, if you know anything at all about my personality, more than a little bit amusing. And they had actually counted. Basically, they were angry because they had counted the number of emails they had sent me over the past 2 years, and I had only replied to one, which obviously was one more than was a good idea in the circumstances, but and it's fine. That goes with the territory. I mean, once you get put on the email alert list by the Council on American Islamic Relations, pretty much everything pales in comparison. But the thing is that e-celebrity fundamentally requires the same commitments, the same self-defense procedures, etc., etc., as what we would consider to be real celebrity. I mean, the funny thing is that, we say, well, Big Bear's not a real celebrity because he's online, But the thing is that he's actually more of a genuine traditional celebrity in terms of the sheer numbers than people who pass for minor celebrities in what we would call the real world. It's always interesting when you think about, when you just look at the numbers. I mean, I see the numbers on the Arctoons comics, for example, and 400 people or whatever read a new Conan episode on the first day, right? And so it's kind of fascinating to see the way that um, if we were all in a single lecture hall, 400 people is a good crowd. You know, 400 was the capacity for the Performing Arts Center at my university. On the rare occasions that one of the musical groups, I wonder if my microphone is too close to the fan on the computer. Does that help at all? Um, anyhow, um, we think that, well, if it's only 400, it's not, the 3,000 that read an episode of Hypergamos on the first day, the 2,000 or so. Um, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. I had my microphone in a suboptimal position right next to the computer, so my fault. We'll remember that next time. But the thing is that uh, as people who are e-celebrities, however minor, and I'm not saying that you know I'm not saying that this is should be interesting and exciting or important and that sort of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that if you find yourself in a position of being even a minor e-celebrity, you need to start realizing that you're going to be pulled in many different directions, which are usually going to interfere with you doing what you should be doing. Owen's a comedian. He needs to be doing comedy. I'm a writer. I'm a novelist. I need to be publishing novels. I need to be writing novels. I'm also a publisher. I need to be publishing novels. If no matter what else I do, that is the original source of most people's interest in what I'm doing. And so you always need to remember that and carve out the time for that, because it's so easy. The more things, it's been kind of fascinating to see how the more things grow, the less time one has to do what is needed to continue that growth. You far too often find it easy to be doing everything else. For example, Owen likes to perform, he likes to talk, he likes to tell jokes and that sort of thing. But his regular streams are not comedy performance. He may tell jokes, they may be funny, but it's not the same thing. It doesn't involve the craft. It doesn't involve the sitting down, writing out jokes, seeing what works, deciding what works, etc., etc. In the same way, it's a little bit more obvious for me. If I am doing a live stream, I am not writing. But here's the interesting thing. When I'm blogging, that's not writing either. I have this feeling that, well, at least as long as I get the I get some comic script written, and I get I get my blog posts up, and maybe I do a stream and oversee this, that, the other thing. Then everything's fine. Everything's moving along well. But it's not true, and that's why I adopted that plan, which was partially successful, of writing 1,000 words a day. Which went great for 3 months, then I got off it for 2 months, and I got back on it, finished Sea of Skulls, got back off it recently. I'm getting back on it now. But the point is it's not about actually nailing that. I mean, if I don't happen to write 365,000 words this year, I'm not going to shed any tears. But the point is that When nobody cares what you do, it's very easy to focus on what you want to do, what you should be doing. It's at least relatively easy. As you get even a very, very minor level of interest, suddenly there's all these other time sinks. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I got rid of comments on the blog. It was just taking too much time just to even read them. I mean, forget actually doing any reasonable sort of moderation. So I offloaded all of that to Social Galactic. It's a beautiful solution. The discussions don't tend to go on quite as long as they used to. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because of the character limit. But that helped a lot. Raging Zoomer asks, do you get blog fatigue? Not really. And what I've learned to do is just focus on getting one initial post up in the morning. And then usually the other stuff will appear organically, whether it's something on Social Galactic, much less often something on Gab, something that I happen to see online in the news. And of course, with the war going on, there's always the possibility of interesting things happening there. Like, for example, I just put up a post. This may sound a little strange, but as you know, I do read the Chinese Foreign Ministry press releases. And I thought it was fascinating that they actually incorporated Putin's rhetoric concerning the Empire of Lies. Now, I don't believe that they're using it in the same context that Putin is. Putin's using it in a overtly spiritual context. I really don't think the atheist Chinese Communist Party is doing so. But it's still interesting to see that they are now openly declaring what is a fundamental opposition to the forces ruling the West. They've hitherto stayed very, very far away from that. The whole point of unrestricted warfare and asymmetric warfare was to avoid directly confronting the U.S. Now they are. So, so that sort of thing just pops up. I happen to notice that Russia Today had paid attention to whatever the current press release was. Then I went over to the site where I read the press releases, and I was really surprised to see that it was its own press release. Did you hear about the Russian military joining Mexican independence military celebration? Yeah, I was aware of that. I didn't really see any great significance in that. But, it's hardly the Zimmerman telegram. But the point is that it's not difficult. I mean, I'm not blogging like I used to, and I'm not blogging like Alex McCree is now, where I'm doing these long, in-depth, original posts for the most part. Generally, what I'm doing is, I would almost say, a higher form of Drudge Report, where you're kind of, Drudge painted with headlines. He created a context with headlines. I'm doing that on a deeper, more detailed level. Explicating my perspective through the use of stories from other sources, and then obviously putting my putting them in my context. And hopefully that's of some value to the readers. Would it be more, I mean, I've thought, in fact, at times of, publishing, like for example, the SSH book, I've actually thought about publishing it, right, just basically throwing it up on the blog as I went along. But, that doesn't work. And because what happens then is that the blog becomes one-dimensional. And that's not what, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about with regards to the demands of e-celebrity, is that you're not providing what people came for in the first place. I mean, I do these streams because the people that read the blog and valued the blog literally bribed me. They said, we will actually make it worth your while to do this. So I thought, okay, well, if they're that serious about it, let's give it a whirl. And then, of course, that played a big role in making the Alt Hero launch successful. It's kind of fascinating to think where, I mean, I wouldn't trade it. I like the independence of unauthorized, but it is really interesting to see where we might have been. I had 36,000 subscribers on YouTube. Big Bear had like 150 or maybe even more. He might have had as many as 300. This is several years ago. So it's really remarkable how, and should be very humbling to see how few people will follow anyone from one platform to another. It kind of reminds me of when we would sign these huge Amazon authors and we do their print book. And we think, oh, wow, we're going to, they've sold 1 million ebooks. I mean, we're going to sell at least 50,000 print copies. And then we'd sell like 200. And that's when you realize, these people do not have the influence that they thought. Swedish Trash Panda says, Stefan Molyneux got really sad about realizing that fact. Well, understandably, but then again, you need to keep in mind the possibility that maybe it wasn't real in the first place. I mean, the chat here is definitely slower than it was on YouTube a few years ago. There's not as many, I don't think there's as many people watching. I don't think there's as many people commenting. I mean, I know there's not as many people. Well, I can't say it because we can't trust the numbers from before. We can trust the numbers now because we control them. But, did I really have 2,000 people on a stream at a time? When here, 200 is a kind of a good norm between DLive and unauthorized. OG Fem says, I prefer the smaller group. Well, yeah, there's reasons to prefer the smaller group. I mean, we've been through about 7 rounds of people saying, well, oh, the blog was better back when it was just 2,000 people a month. By the time Google shut down our access to the VP blog on Blogger, we were at, we were doing 110,000 page views a day. And frankly, I don't trust the views that we get on WordPress either. Very dubious about it. Pinkerton's Ghost said, I was more regular watching during live streams at that time, not so right now. Yeah, but that's you. I mean, your life circumstances has changed. It's different now. But that doesn't explain, you know, 80% of the audience. Coddington says, to me, the best analytic was always how many people showed up to shows and festivals. Well, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, Owen has always been threatening. It's really interesting. Have any of you watched John Delarose yet on Unauthorized? I would recommend it because he's really uh, doing some excellent stuff on the comic space and to a lesser extent in the fiction space. Um, and he's now reached the point and is relevant to the point that the opposition is cranking up. Also, he has a new high profile gig, which he may or may not have mentioned, but that should be bringing in a lot of attention on the conservative front as well. So, um, smaller chat, much better quality listener comments. Well, yeah, definitely. Um, and a lot of the comments and stuff were totally worthless. You know, and obviously, well, what's interesting is D Live is freely accessible. Unauthorized is not, but um, the quality of the viewers matters more than the viewers look at Little Toe. Um, okay, I don't follow, but yeah, I generally agree with the sentiment. Um, I'm so used to with getting random nonsense notifications on my phone that I often miss the live notifications by several minutes. Yeah, well, we're going to eventually come up with a better notification system on unauthorized. The techs have been talking about some of that lately, and so that should be interesting. Oh, by the way, Coddington, great job on that trailer. I'm so excited to see Owen back doing proper specials. Um, I think that that's just fundamentally important, and um, it's good that he's doing that. And also that joke about AC/DC cracked me up. Um, and we're going to be adding a lot of useful new features over the next 6 months to unauthorized. We've had plans, but it's been difficult to find the time to do that when we're doing the fundamental infrastructure stuff. I mean, we're still right now we're not doing any new feature stuff. We're just focusing on the new set of servers, making sure everything works properly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, West by Godbear, excited for the new special. I think it will probably be his best yet. Yeah, I hope so. I do think, I think the last special, the one that he did, um, that wasn't his best. I think he was still trying to figure out who he was and where he was uh, as a comedian at the time. And also, I think that he wasn't fully aware of how not being able to perform in the clubs and test his stuff out um, would affect the final product. You know, um, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes, how that's received. I mean, what I'd love to do is I'd love to get other comedians on, um, get if we can develop new ones. That'd be very, very interesting. Cod says the roar of the crowd at the festival is definitely the highest energy I've ever experienced in person. That's cool. That's good to know. And How many people were at the festival anyhow? Sopko the bear says, "Aren't we all trying to just figure out ourselves out though? Isn't that the point of this whole thing?" Okay, thanks, Socrates. Um, no, the point of this whole thing is to figure out what God wants us to do. Figure out how we can serve Him. Um, and also, Owen's rapidly reaching the age where he knows who he is. You know, I know who I am. I have for some years now. I don't have any illusions. I don't. Um, I don't have any delusions. You know, it's just what it is, and I might wish that things were different or better, or that I was more able to do X, Y, or Z. But the reality is, at my age, it's not going to change. You know, at my age, you're basically a little bit post your peak, and the objective is to maintain as much of it as you can for as long as you can before the inevitable decline. You know? Don't get me wrong, I feel pretty good. Um, I ran into one of my former teammates this morning, and we were pretty close in that he was the defender who played behind me on the wing when I got moved to the wing. And he took one look and said, "Well, you look fit. You're still playing on the wing?" I said, "Yep." He said, "I thought by now you'd have been moved back to defense." I said, "I can still run." He said, "Yeah, I can see that." So, and I have to say, he still looked like he could play. So I said, "Look, we miss you on defense. Um, you should come back." And he's like, just, too many injuries, too much of this, too much. Because we actually had, in our most recent game, we had a complete neophyte playing defender for pretty much the entire game behind my wing. And it was not good. Actually cost us the game that we lost by a goal, which is just irksome to me. So I would have given much to have had that retired teammate behind me instead. But the point is that at a certain age, you need to accept who you are. You need to just say, you know what? I am never going to write a novel as good as The Name of the Rose. I'm not even going to start trying to write a novel as good as Name of the Rose. It's not going to happen. And I'm okay with that. Because that was originally my goal. I felt that I couldn't do what Tolkien did, but I felt I might be able to do what Eco did. And it's possible that I could do something, at the Bodolino Island of the Day Before. Name of the Rose, no, it's not happening. Raging Zoomer says, "You're rhetorically peaking." Um, Actually, I did get a nice compliment today from somebody. They said "born to tilt" is like the best rhetorical phrase that you've ever come up with. He really liked that one, which kind of surprised me. I said, "Yeah, that's not really that different than it's essentially the same thing as that conflict is the air we breathe." He's like, "Yeah, but that's a mouthful." He said, 3 words, boom, gets the point out. Plus, it's an effective response to the whole denigrating, you're just tilting at windmills, right? Fine. Born to tilt. Um, but uh, Coddington Bear says, I personally like Day of the Pillow. I don't think I came up with that one. I mean, I maybe I did, but I don't think so. Um, I'm I don't really keep track of those things. Ladumba said, it seems boomers never accepted who they are, just have a posture. Well, yeah, that's fundamentally one of the problems with boomers is that they've they loved who they were. They accepted being told what they were when they were teenagers, and they never recovered. They never got over it. That's why they're that's why they're doing Golden Bachelor. 80 is the new 20. 70 and sexy. Day of the Pillow is a 4chan thing, I think. Day of the Pillow does sound like a 4chan thing. Um, Now, I will say that I think that with Boomer Patrol, we raised it to new heights. Yes, Ladumba, that's exactly why they do the 50 is the new 40 thing. They actually started back when they turned 40. I remember. I was there. It was 40 is the new 20. And then they just kept doing. Well, the thing is, you even see it when their attempts to do the whole cool Joe Biden. He's so cool. Because nothing's cooler than dementia and falling down every time you try to take the steps. I can't post it anymore. I'm on my iPhone and it keeps correcting everything I type. Okay, look. Turn autocorrect off. I mean, now I understand you're on an iPhone and it's possible that Steve Jobs has decreed that you should not have the right to turn autocorrect off. I don't know, but I do hope that people can understand that you typing something stupid and then typing damn autocorrect, that's not helping. Because number one, we already thought you're stupid because of what you said. And then what you're saying is, no, I'm not dumb enough to say that. I'm just too stupid to figure out how to turn my autocorrect off. Not difficult. Believe me, turning autocorrect off is the first thing I do on any time I have a new word processor. No, Sopko, you're wrong. Boomers did not get racism right. Not at all. Nobody loves the civil rights movement more than boomers. I mean, if you ask them, they all marched at Selma. They all heard Martin Luther King's speech, just like they were all at Woodstock. So, Powers at Bear said, possibly the first generation to get it really, really wrong. Well, they did. I mean, they're the first generation to leave the subsequent generation after them worse off than they were. And were they deceived? Yeah, absolutely. But, you have to take a certain amount of responsibility for being deceived and then for clinging to the deception rather than abandoning it once it's revealed to you. West by God Bear says, my boomer parents still complain about the border daily. but just hired Mexicans to fix their roof. Precisely. You know, you 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 can't necessarily accept blame for the border, but you can not hire Mexicans to fix your roof. You know, so anyhow, but to get back to what I was talking about before, um, I think that it's important to understand, you know, if whether you're an e-celebrity or you're somebody who supports an e-celebrity, it's important to understand that the issues that are faced are exactly the same, regardless of whether you're talking about somebody who's, you know, famous in Albania for being a singer. I mean, believe me, uh, over here in Europe, there's micro celebrities in real life. You know, um, French comedians, uh, Dutch documentary makers, and their followings are probably even though they're considered important in their areas, and you know they'll appear in on the local TV, they'll, you know, their doings will be reported in the local newspaper. Their overall followings are almost certainly much smaller than Big Bear's. It might even be smaller than mine. You know, and so deep forest bears confessing to be part of the problem. Mexicans have been fixing my house. They are better, faster, and cheaper. I prefer their labor. Well, you know, so be it. But you know, um, you know, you've got some responsibility for the consequences. Um, you know, it's sometimes we have to think about things in a longer term perspective than the immediate one. You know, it's not hard to understand the temptation. You know, the you know, when we were getting the tennis court fixed, I'm sure it would have been much cheaper to um, you know, hire foreigners or whatever, but we didn't do that because the whole point is to support the local, you know, support the locals, especially not being a local myself. You know, we always try to, you know, whether it's, uh, you know, to be honest, it really works out well. I'm a big fan of always supporting the local cheese factories, and because of that, I discovered two amazing cheeses that I'd never heard of before. They're now two of my favorites. I mean, you can't you one place you literally can't even get it anywhere but where it's made. The other one you do find in some of the local stores, which is cool. But anyhow, it's uh, you know, don't always go for the least expensive option. That's the thinking that got us into this mess in the first place. So now sometimes you don't have a choice, but it's worth considering. You know, if, like with the books, we could just publish ebooks. That's the cheapest way to do it. I don't think any of the Castalia Library subscribers would agree that that's a comparable or acceptable substitute. It's not. You know, not only will they not last several hundred years, they probably won't last your switch to your next computer. Cheese nationalism. Exactly. So let's see. In Sweden, we have Västerbottenskärspaj, which has Västerbotten cheese in it, which is a Parmesan style cheese. Was shocked when I found out how expensive it is outside of Sweden. Well, it's certainly a mouthful. Um, yeah. Well, the I'm a big fan of black rind Parmigiano Reggiano myself. So, and I don't know how easy that is to find outside of Italy and Italian Switzerland, but it's very, very good stuff. I mean, some people try to substitute grana padano for it or something, and that's just wrong. It's just no substitute. So, how about cheaper hardcover editions of Castalia Library? I can't prioritize animal skin books at this point. Well, we will have them coming out. In fact, we'll have regular Castalia House versions coming out relatively soon. But, you know, we're happy to do it because people have asked for it. But the whole point is that, you know, a book like this is going to last practically indefinitely. I have books on my shelves going back to the 17th century. Not necessarily in the greatest shape, but they last. Whereas, you know, a paperback like this, it's not going to last at all. You know, they're already. I mean, I've got books that I published back in the late 90s, and you can already see, you know, the pages are yellowing and all that sort of thing. So once we have the bindery going and we can reasonably do smaller print runs, we'll probably do some of my old books, like the Eternal Warriors books and things like that, for the smaller number of people who are interested in them, just to see. So, by the way, I'm going to show you a couple things here. So this isn't the final, but it's getting close. I put this up on Gab today, but this is going to be coming out very soon, like we're talking next week. And Chuck Dixon's Conan #2. I think I have the cover here somewhere. Where did I put it? The hell? Well, that's annoying. Well, you've seen the image, but it's not the actual cover with the titling. But so this is Chuck Dixon's Conan #2, Caravan of the Damned, and we were meant to get it out last week, but then I had our production guy said, we got a slight problem here. You said to do a chapter on every heading. I said, a illustration for every chapter. I said, yeah. He said, there's 10 illustrations. I said, yeah. He said 13 chapters. And then I realized that I made a mistake in giving instructions to the guy who got the illustrations done. So what we had to do is we needed to add a few illustrations. And so I just got them today. And so they will be, they're done by the guy who also does Midnight's War. And they will be going into the book this weekend. And hopefully we're going to be able to start taking orders on Monday, Tuesday. Probably Tuesday to be safe. Jay Bila said, keep books coming, just upgraded bookcase to 8 foot by 5.5 foot glass doors. Nice. Look forward to filling them up with Castelia Library and history books. Well, we've just finished all the stuff we need to do for um, history books 2 and 3. I don't think it's a big surprise. We haven't formally announced it, but I don't think anyone is going to be surprised to know that the Cambridge Medieval History Volume 2 is going to be Castelia History Book 3. What we might do, and I stress might, is it's entirely possible that we might get books 2 and 3 out before book 1, which would be a little annoying, but as you can see from the book blocks behind me, Thucydides is an unusual size, and so we had to order special paper for it. I haven't done any recording, John, but my voice is recovered. I should be able to do some this week. You are inspiring a Pinkerton's Ghost episode at this rate. Stalking people in the catacombs with literature. Well, I've been accused of worse. So, anyhow, we are getting caught up. Oh, I can show you one more thing. I just forgot. This is going to be going out very soon in the next newsletter. But we have both books 7 and 8 just about ready to go. And this is what 1 through 7 look like. So book 7 is the animal book, and of course I shamelessly abused my position as editor to make sure that we had a proper animal on book 7. So book 8 is also done and ready to go. We're just waiting for the final cover and spine image to get wrapped up, and then we'll pop book 8 on there as well. But it looks like we're definitely going to get book 7 and 8 out before Christmas. We're probably going to be able to get the leather versions out as well. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how they look, especially compared to the 1958 edition. This is just it's much better than what they did for the animal book, and I think you're really going to like the cover, which is inspired by a new and modern classic short story about animals. So I know people have been eagerly waiting for these. I don't think anyone is going to be disappointed with them. In fact, I'm certain that no one's going to be disappointed with them, with the possible exception of people whose kids they feel have aged out. But the reality is they haven't, and they won't. If they enjoyed the first 6 books, they will read and enjoy 7 and 8 as well. Well, you can always go with the ebooks. We make the ebooks available too. So, I mean, the point with the junior classics is just to get them out there for people to read. That's why that we do them at ebook, we do them as regular hardcovers, and we do them as leather books. So, anyhow, that's all we've got time for tonight. Being a very important minor e-celebrity, I have things to do and stuff to get done. So I wish you all a good evening. I'm happy to Ackerbear points out that even though some kids are aging out, others are aging in. which is a good thing. So have a good weekend. I'm Vox Day. This is the Darkstream.